drug farms. Higher prices mean the flood's on. Need bigger scales to put the bud on. Gloves on. Strictly business mean the love's gone. I met the plug that put my plug on. Drug farms. Higher prices mean the flood's on. Need bigger scales to put the bud on. Gloves on. Strictly business mean the love's gone. I met the plug that put my plug on.
Hey yo, Lotus position with this or another banger.
I also gotta return the favor because I had one of my best interviews I've ever had with you.
Really? That's beautiful, brother.
You know, and it's crazy because this guy was telling me maybe I want to say a month ago. He was like, "Yo, bro, I was on YouTube. I was looking your interviews up, and you don't got nobody that really gave you a good in-depth interview. Like it's always these random ass weed questions and random shit.
The shit that I said was in-depth for you was shit that you was involved in.
Right.
It was something you put out.
Right, yeah. right. And that shit was just it was crazy to have somebody that I respect and honor know my shit like that. And on a journalist level, on a conversationalist level, it was a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. That's the highest possible compliment you could give me when it comes to that, because I really work hard at what you just said. I work hard at making it feel like that because I do what you do, so I know what it feels like. So
right.
if I'm gonna be on this side, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's gotta be right.
Right. Well, I'm just. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if you've been smoking rock or under a rock, you now tuned into the motherfucking Personal Party Podcast.
Shit.
Followed by the wackest ad-lib in the game.
Shit.
The wackest ad-lib in the game. Do it again.
Shit.
Let's talk to him.
You see levels and shit? Is levels
good? You gotta guard MC in the building and you worry about my ad-lib.
Nah. Yeah, it's definitely...
We have a gym in the building and you worry about my ad-lib.
Yeah, you feel me? I'm the nigga with the ad-lib in real life. I'm just telling you, your ad-lib is type trash. So I just be telling you, the man with the whack is ad-lib, you know what I mean? If skill so, truth be told, lyrically I be Talib Kweli.
Peace.
Okay?
How y'all feeling?
Nah, how we feeling? Yeah. Shit, I didn't even get. I was trying to get through my intro.
Hey, I'm up here in Throg's neck. I told him I don't even know what a Throg is. They said it was a bird. Are they right?
I guess.
They don't know. What's a Throg? Much less.
I don't know, man. I know it's quiet, man. Yeah. I like it. It's quiet, so it works. You know what I mean?
It's nice. I've never been here.
Really?
Yeah, and I've been all over New York. We were saying, I was like, this is new for me because I've never been here, and I thought I've been everywhere in New York.
Well,
okay.
We in the crevices. We in the crevices of Uptown. Low key.
There's somebody else in this building too.
It's a couple people in here.
I appreciate it.
Somebody else you'll definitely appreciate.
Wow.
Okay.
Word, but
can I get some water too? Is there water?
You can get my brother right, man.
It's all good. That's all good.
We got beer.
We got the motherfucking gem, one of the fucking greatest writers of our times.
Oh, you're too kind, brother.
Motherfucking Brooklyn's finest, Talib Kweli.
You know you are that. I know you don't like to say it.
I'm glad to participate in this beautiful journey that we all on, this hip hop journey, and I'm glad that I get to add on and be a part of it.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? I feel real good about that.
Word. I mean, you one of our legends.
Thank you, brother.
One of the staples in the game.
We'll say it for you.
When I think about MCs, when I came up, like I told you, when I came up loving rap, loving the golden era of rap, thinking of MCs, I think of Talib Kweli, I think of Mos Def, I think of Biggie Smalls, I think of Jay-Z, I think of DMX, I think of Nas. and it just so happens it's all New York people because I'm from New York as well, from Harlem. But when I think of people,
Hey, y'all gotta shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. I was hoping they was gonna catch it.
Not only did- it was like 2
Nah, this was my people. They was. I was like, yeah.
when I'm
I'm sorry. Keep going.
when I'm thinking of
I was
swords,
enjoying what he had to say.
when I'm thinking of swordsmen, I'm thinking of you.
Thank you, brother.
You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
When did you get into rapping?
That's a good question. Nobody's asked me that in a long time. I was in Summit Junior High School in the 113 building, and hip hop was the biggest thing as far as the youth in New York. My parents moved in a way where I was going to museums and libraries on the weekends, and so I wasn't involved in hip hop per se. I used to listen to a little bit of BLS, a little bit of Kiss FM, but mostly I was listening to Z100 and other stations like that. Like I was listening to pop music when I was a kid, and then going to junior high school and the peer pressure of junior high school. There was a dance crew called the Much Finesse Dancers, and I liked the girls in that dance crew, and so they was dancing to hip hop records. It was like this was '88, so this was like. Audio 2, Make It Funky, and like Don't Believe the Hype and Kid and Play, Do This My Way. It was records like that. I'd heard hip hop before, but pop hip hop, Run DMC, Beastie Boys. I wasn't really in the
Crazy.
Yeah, you know, I grew up in New York City, so I saw breakdancing. You saw people, b-boys with the radios. You know, you saw hip hop culture, but I wasn't invested in it as a kid until junior high school, and that. Wanting to be one of the cool kids and wanting to get on them girls made me be like start to pay attention to these songs. And I was already at that age writing plays and poetry. So when I started putting the hip hop to what I was doing with my writing, it all fell into place.
What made you a writer? You were writing poetry.
Yeah, my parents are both educators, Brenda and Perry Green. My mother is a humanities, English professor, teacher. She was very big in particular on you know, like if I got in trouble, she'd make me write an essay about what I did wrong, stuff like that. She was very into reading and writing and sitting down with books, and that was a very big focus in my house. There's a lot of books in my household.
Speaking of books, right? Now, I know you worked at a bookstore before that you ended up owning,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What was your first job?
My first job was that dude out there that's being so loud. It's Seth Bird, and my first job was my mother worked at Medgar College at Crown Heights, and I used to work at like summer camp, like a summer camp, day camp situation as a counselor at Medgar Evers College.
That's crazy.
That was my first job.
That's crazy. So
Heights.
working at that bookstore, right, and then full circle moment ended up owning the bookstore. How did that whole process come about?
So shout out to Adelaide Miller, who's the mother of Leothi Miller Owens, who started Ikiru Books, Brooklyn's first black-owned bookstore ever. Yes, indeed, I like that. There's black-owned bookstores in New York City before. Liberation Books in Harlem was there before, but as far as Brooklyn, there wasn't any black-owned bookstores, and she started it. She passed away early, and she passed away when she was 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
Leothi Miller Owens, and her mother took it over. When I was in college, graduated in 1993. I went to college in 1993, and I dropped out in 1993. I dropped out after like a month.
In New York. That was a rough year.
93 for sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I went to NYU. I went to Experimental Theater Tisch School of Arts. I used to hang out at Washington Square Park. NYU was the only school that I applied to. And I was like, if I don't get into NYU, I'm not going to college. That's how I was on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember they used to make you try to apply to different schools?
Right.
I didn't want to go to college. But I was like, if I could go to New York University and study acting, that's worth it. And I got into the acting program. I wrote an ill essay. I wrote my way into that program.
That's hard.
You know what I'm saying?
That's hard.
And but once I got there, my roommate was John Forte, and John Forte was rapping and in the studio and going to the clubs. He was at Jessica Rosenbaum and Funk Flex and
Shout out
DJ
to
Nuff.
Jess.
And I'm looking at that versus the school life. And I start, Forte is working with the Fugees at this time. I start hanging out with Forte and my other dude Juju out there. I start hanging out with them. I'm not going to class. And I started, and I knew that I dropped out of school, but I didn't tell my parents that I dropped out. So by the time the summer's coming, and I got to tell them. So I was like, okay, what I got to do is I got to get a job first. Before I tell my parents that I dropped out of school, I got to get a job. And I already had a job. I had a job at a Shakespeare and Company Books in the Village, but I had lost that job. So I had to get a new job. And I walked up and down. I was like, I'm only going to work at a bookstore or a record store. It's got to be something like that. I can't just have like a regular grocery store. That's going to kill me, my spirit. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so I was
right.
like, I submitted a resume to every book and record store in downtown Brooklyn, all through the Village, all through Midtown, and I got in Kiru Books. And by the time we got our deal on Rawkus, Yassine and I I was doing these open mics at the bookstore called Foundations, and it would be like Dead Prez and Saul Williams and Jessica Care Moore, Mums the Schema, rest in peace, would be at the bookstore, doing our shit. You know what I'm saying? Wordsworth Punchline, Shabam Sadiq, Sir Menelik. And so when I got my deal, I knew that the are they still too loud? Yeah. They're still too loud. Right?
A tad.
Open the door. You know, we went out for dinner and drinks before that.
Oh, okay.
So let me open the door real quick. I'm gonna tell him, hey yo, y'all gotta keep it down. Y'all yelling.
Oh, jeez, don't give a fuck. What the fuck what them niggas is talking about?
Yeah,
Right there.
That's a fact.
So I mean, we the bookstore, the book business, brick and mortar bookstore business in Brooklyn and Park Slope, where the rents was going up at that time, was not very hard to do. And so me and Yassine bought the bookstore from Adelaide Miller. We tried to run it, and we didn't do a good job at running it. It was hard to do. We were young. We were in our early 20s. We had burgeoning rap careers. And so we tried our best. We had it up and running for a few years, and then we moved it further deeper into Brooklyn where the rent was cheaper. Then our moms, Umi, who Yassine sings about, my moms got together and they was running it for us as we started doing the Blackstar thing. Then it became we turned it from a bookstore to a nonprofit organization, and we tried to do community activism work with that. That was tough to do. So for years it was dormant, but a few years back, I put the bookstore online. So you go to qualityclub.com, and there's a site, there's a section on qualityclub.com and Kiru Books. And I got all them books. Like, you can come to my website right now and buy books. I curate the whole list. I keep all the books at the crib. My homegirl Donna out there, she the one to send them out to you. So I still sell books.
That's hard. Slinging rap, slinging books,
yeah.
slinging words.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Like, yo, so I got a photo. I always wanted to ask you this, right?
The whole family made money off literature.
What was going on in you guys' lives when that photo was taken?
Wow. So what is that? Is that Karma? I don't know where that's at.
I think it might be Karma Loop.
You live the life when you look at a picture and you don't even know.
Yeah, so this is the photo shoot for the Blackstar album cover. And I don't remember the photographer who took this picture, but this was a spot we was eating Jamaican food a lot, or Caribbean food a lot at this time in our lives. So this was probably just a lunch break. We probably had it says roti. I'm trying to think what spot that is. I don't know, but yeah, this was the start.
That was the start.
The start. That's one of those pictures
hard.
from that photo shoot. Yeah.
That's hard. Yo, you know,
What's crazy? I just did the video with Westside Gun.
I know Peppers.
That's what it made me think about.
Bro, let me tell you, Westside Gun, that's one of my best friends in the world. He's always over here. I heard that song before the world got to hear it, probably before he even put his verse on it. And I was, Like, he just played it for me. He didn't tell me who was on it.
Right.
He just played it. I heard you come on. I'm like, okay. Then I heard y'all come on. I'm like, oh shit, you got the Blackstar joint?
Right.
Now, I don't know if anybody ever asked you this, but I'm gonna ask. How the fuck did y'all come up with the name Blackstar?
That's Yassine. That's Yassine Bey. Yassine has all these beautiful ideas floating through his mind at all times, and for him, the Blackstar thing was more a celestial thing. He talks about, we were dealing with like how the Dogon tribe back in the day, they didn't have telescopes, but they were able to navigate the stars, and he talks about the collapse of a white dwarf star, and he's talking about like that's the type of celestial space shit that he's talking about. When he said Blackstar, he said we should do a group. We were doing a lot of shows together. We had a couple little records together. And we were doing all our shows together. If he had a show, I'd show up. If I had a show, he'd show up. He said, we should do a group called Blackstar. And I'm like, yeah, like Marcus Garvey. And he's like, yeah, that too. But he was someplace else with it. So, yeah, that's Yassine.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Right, so with Fort Greene, right? So you're not from Fort Greene.
No, I'm from Flatbush.
You're from Flatbush, right?
Park Slope. I was born and raised in Park Slope. And I was in Park Slope till about 10 years old, and then we moved out to Flatbush.
Word. So, right, so what was the thing with everybody living in Fort Greene, right? The Robert Glasper's, Common, Bilal, Badu.
Yeah, that era, that Fort Greene era, there's a movie about this called Brooklyn Boheme. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It's Nelson George. You know who Nelson George is? Nelson George is a writer. He used to write for the Village Voice back then, but he was one of the first, earliest journalists who really paid attention to hip-hop and talked about hip-hop in the mainstream space. He had a book called Buppies, B-Boys, Baps, and Bohos, which was a book back in the day, which was like talking about like this hip-hop thing is coming. You know what I'm saying? He is a writer on, I believe he's the co-writer of CB4.
Oh,
Chris
wow.
Rock.
Oh, wow.
Right? So him and Chris Rock, real good friends. Chris Rock from Fort Greene. Nelson George from Fort Greene. Rosie Perez from Fort Greene. I don't think Wesley Snipes from there, but he was living in that area at the time. And so this is where, so Nkiru Books was in Park Slope, but right on the edge of where Park Slope turned into Fort Greene and Prosper Heights, and where Foxy and them is from, like, is over there. And then you got at that time you had this place called 4W and a Square, or 4 Circle and a Square, or some shit like that, which was a store that was owned by black women. They used to sell like clothing, and Erykah Badu lived on top of that store. And then you had next door to that place called Sister's Place. Then you had this place called Frank's Place, which was a bar that used to play Fela Kuti music and do these Fela parties in the middle of the night. Then across the street from Frank's Place, you had this place called Brooklyn Moon Cafe. And Brooklyn Moon Cafe was, they used to do spoken word there. But what made them famous was the neighbors above Brooklyn Moon Cafe used to complain when people clap and hoop and holler. So they came up with this thing like, when you like it, you snap. And that became a thing. So all the poetry clubs around there started doing this thing. When you do a poem, everybody like it, you snap. Then that became a thing that went across the country. So by the time you get to a movie like Love Jones, they doing that. But they imitating that scene from that whole Fort Greene. But that's just the art shit. That's the Spike Lee. Spike had Spike's joint across the street from Brooklyn Tech. But if you go back in the history of it, have you ever seen The Education of Sonny Carson?
Yes.
Which Ghostface sample. You know, so I put trademarks around his fucking eye. Yeah, around all that type of shit. That movie is about Sonny Carson, who's the father of Lumumba Carson. Lumumba Carson's a founding member of X-Clan. Professor X, the overseer. That's Sonny Carson's son. This dude out here who's being loud, Seth, he's Sonny Carson started Black Watch. So that's like Black Watch, X-Clan type of shit. Crondon was living in Brooklyn at the time, in Fort Greene.
Shout out my brother Crondon.
He was a member of Black Watch at the time. Right? So, but the education of Sonny Carson take place in Fort Greene. That fight scene is Fort Greene Park. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's this, and then Fort Greene Park, when you think about the original 50 Cent and all the stories of the 80s and 90s era of Fort Greene Park, and when they was calling Murder Avenue, Murder Ave, and all that. New York, right? Yeah, it's like the juxtaposition of the dangerous, and Marcy is right there too, like of that dangerousness mixed with this arts community. It created something special, and I feel like that Spike Lee jazz, because Bill Lee, his father lived there with Branford Marcellus was living there with DJ Premier as his roommate at the time. So it just created this stew. That's where you get the jazz thing from the Mo Better Blues soundtrack. Right. You know what I'm saying? It created this stew of like, it was dangerous, but it was jazzy and it was colorful and it was artistic. That's Carol's daughter started over there too. I remember like.
Oh wow.
When I was going to Brooklyn Tech, it was Brooklyn Tech and then it was Spike's joint and then it was Carol's daughter. And Carol's daughter went on to become international.
It's crazy. Yo, so all those names I named with that was living in Fort Greene at the time, along with yourself, formed Soulquarium. Right?
Yeah, Soulquarians. I don't know if everybody was living. I don't think everybody's living in Fort Greene, but everybody
in the proximity of each other.
Soulquarians is more everybody who was working in and around Electric Lady Studios. That's what Soulquarians was.
Okay.
If you was in Electric Lady at that time, or at proximity to the Roots or Jay Dilla, that's what Soulquarians was.
So that's how that was developed.
Yeah.
Okay. Rawkus.
Yes.
Right, so I was telling you before, I always wanted to be a part of Rawkus. I wish I rapped in that era.
Right.
Because it was either, yeah,
I said he's
was
one of us.
Yeah. I definitely would have been there with y'all.
Yeah.
How was that experience like being a part of that conglomerate?
It's good. I mean, there's been a lot of little diss records about Rawkus because people come into business and like you said on my show, you get what you negotiate. And so there was a lot of that with Rawkus. But all in all, the Rawkus guys, I had a good experience with them. The guys who started Rawkus, at least one of them is the guys who started Uprocks, and that's who I partnered with for my
People
show.
Party.
So, my podcast is like the Rawkus of podcast because I'm doing it with the same people who's with Rawkus.
That's hard.
You know what I'm saying?
That's hard.
Rawkus, when Rawkus first started, the first A&R of Rawkus was John Forte, who was my best friend and my rhyme partner and my roommate, and that was my mentor when it came to learning how to rhyme. And so he signed his OGs because John Forte 5%. So the people who brought him to the knowledge was people like Shabar Allah, aka Daddy Rose from Rose Family, Population Clique. These is OG gods from Brownsville, Brooklyn. So the first groups that Rawkus had was, they had a 7 Universal with the group that was down with like Wu-Tang, and they had Shabar Allah and his brother Allah's son, rest in peace, the Rose Family. And they tried it and it didn't really work out for them the first go around with Forte. And then Forte kind of started doing his Fuji's thing and he moved away from that. And Company Flow, really, I got to give LP from Run the Jewels his props because Company Flow, they had this thing independent as fuck and official recordings, and they had this whole movement they was rolling with. And Rawkus tapped into that. And when Rawkus seen that business model, they followed that. And then you seen Shabam Sadiq and Sir Menelik. And by the time I came around, they was already entrenched in the underground. You wanted to have a Rawkus single by the time I came around.
That make a lot of sense. He's an
historian, brother.
OD.
I've been at this for a minute.
Nah, don't worry, man. I got us. Yo, is the term backpacker disrespectful to you?
I don't think
Great
so.
question.
I don't feel no way about it. The first time for me that I realized the backpack thing was a thing was when I seen Black Moon on Ralph McDaniels. And before Who Got the Props came out, they had performed it on Video Music Box. And it's 5 Foot and Buckshot. And if you listen to the lyrics of that song and that album, lyrics was violent. There wasn't books in them backpacks, you know what I'm saying? And they had on the backpacks, you know what I'm saying? And they was, what up, go. And it was, to me, the backpack was hard.
Books,
you know what I'm saying? And so, me being from, I lived in a two-fare zone where I had to catch the dollar van or the bus to the train.
To the train, right?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
They don't know about the two-fare zone.
And we spent a lot of time in the train system. So coming from Brooklyn, going to the city, I had to have a day's worth of shit, whether it's a change of clothes or whatever I needed. The backpack was a very functional thing. But in the Rawkus era, backpack, Grand Poobah, I gotta give him props because he made the backpack. He helped to make the backpack accepted fashion-wise. In New York, people had the polo gear and the Tommy Hilfiger and the Nautica with the backpacks. But Poobah and them was doing that in the videos and everything. So now you're seeing Like Pooba was the coolest ever, and he's rocking a backpack, and he's what goes around comes back and all that.
Pooba had all the low too.
And he had the low and all that.
All the low.
Yeah, and what was interesting is that in the Rawkus era, Rawkus made a certain type of hip hop accessible to white kids in the suburbs. Because now white kids in the suburbs could come down to the village and go to Fat Beats and buy the 12-inch or listen to Stretch and Barbito and tune in and be like, I'm down. And so they started copying the look. But if you're a white kid driving in from Connecticut, I shouldn't say that because Connecticut's mad at me because I made a joke about Connecticut on my podcast. And then a bunch of Connecticut rappers made diss songs about me.
Oh, man.
So I got to be careful when I mention Connecticut because they're very sensitive. But
I got a good friend out of Connecticut that's a rapper. Shout out to Chris Webby. Good guy.
He's one of the rappers that was dissing me.
No!
Yeah, Webby. Yeah. No, I'm gonna tell you why Webby was dissing me. I'm gonna tell you why Webby was dissing me. Because look, I went to high school in Connecticut. I got people. I was clearly joking. I was talking about how New York could be elitist.
Right.
I was like, we be on that Bridger Tunnel. You Bridger Tunnel? Yeah, fuck Connecticut. I said it like that, and they was like, nigga, fuck Connecticut. you don't know what is that? And so Chris Webby, I got records with Webby, and so he was like, listen, clearly he's joking. He got on the internet. He was like, clearly he's joking. I fuck with Kweli. I represent Connecticut. Sometimes I feel like fuck Connecticut. I'm from here, and the rappers in Connecticut was so mad at him for that. Nigga, you the white boy, shut the fuck up. That's how they was coming at him. The niggas who was dissing me was dissing him to the point where he couldn't take it. And so he came back on the internet, a week later, and he was like, you know what, Kweli, because you know me, I didn't start talking about it every time they came to me. Yo, and I started posting the niggas was making diss records about me, so I started posting them on my feed. And talking about it, all right, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like this record, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a bunch of diss records. And Chris Webby didn't like that I kept talking about it, so he was like, I'm sick of this shit. He was like, you know what, you're gonna stop talking about Connecticut today. And he said some shit like that on my page, and I was like, or what? What you gonna do, Chris? Like, yo, you just, like, don't get gas, Chris Webby.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Like, me and you, we had a good rapport. We had a good relationship, but I don't know what it's like to be from a place that people don't take seriously like that. And I think he succumbed to the pressure of, and to him being a white artist and in a black space is probably very hard for him. I'm being very gracious right now.
I know, but I'm just gonna right because I like him. Good kid, good guy. Not even a kid, good guy.
And I just want to say before we finish that point. The point that a lot of people missed about the joke is when I said fuck Connecticut, I'm not dissing, but I'm making fun of New York. Because I'm making fun of how elitist we could be. I don't actually feel like fuck Connecticut. That's not my actual feeling. So for you to be real mad over some shit that I don't actually feel is crazy.
You know,
but continue, I'm sorry.
You know, everybody has to hold on to something.
Yeah,
Come on, guys. Y'all know quality. Come on, guys. I mean,
shout out to Connecticut.
Shout out to Connecticut. Shout out to
Real
Philly
niggas,
Coop, my
lick shots,
guys.
peace, Connecticut.
My Danbury niggas, my motherfucking Stanford niggas, all my
niggas.
niggas.
Say things like that.
Waterbury.
Use it as a target.
Yeah, you know, so I got a large platform, so I got to be careful what I say and take everybody's feelings into account. But also, I don't actually feel like that. So
right.
So, but we was talking about something else.
Nah, I'm gonna get back to it.
You want it? You want it?
I'm
okay,
on it.
I can
right?
relax.
So we was on Rawkus, right? So the headquarter of Rawkus was in SoHo, right? Now for me, before SoHo became my stomping grounds, now as Smoke does it, to where I can go out there and go shop in all my favorite stores and be recognized and smoke weed freely before the cops could just let us smoke weed wherever the fuck we want. I had no business in SoHo, so I didn't know what it was like. Now you being there with the headquarters of Rawkus being there in the 90s, what was the sense of fashion like in SoHo at that time?
Yeah, well, SoHo, that area that's more of Greenwich Village where Rawkus was at. 676 Broadway is more of Greenwich Village technically than SoHo. But it was right on the cusp. SoHo is where Houston separates it.
Right.
Back then, so before Rawkus, I used to hang out in that area. And it was all about native tongues inspired fashion and house music inspired fashion in that area. there was a store called Unique Boutiques. There was a store called there was a store called Unique, a store called Antique Boutique, where we used to get the Guess jumpers and the Zodiac shoes and the, you know what I'm saying, like the Jabot jeans. And then they had like David Z shoes was the name of it.
Shout out to Ronnie.
Yeah, they had David
Ronnie
Z
Fogg.
shoes. And then you would have House of Nubian, where you get your Malcolm X t-shirts and your incense and your beads and your, you know, a lot of beads, a lot of bead shops. People wearing beads.
The oils.
And then, so that was on the street. So you had Tower Records. On the street would be the Muslims and the Ox selling oils and incense. And you could buy bandanas and sunglasses. And Kenyatta, who changed the name to Buckshot, used to sell oils and incense with a table outside in front of Tower Records.
That's hard.
Back then.
That's hard.
And so that's where I first remember even seeing him. So I remember when I seen that Who Got the Props video, I'm like, oh, that's my man from in front of Tower Records.
Tower Records.
You know, but the fashion, by the time I got to the Rawkus era, remember when Tribe Called Quest went from People's Instinctive Travels and the way they dressed to Low End Theory, and now it's more, they went from being influenced more to where Q-Tip was at to more where Phife was at. Now it's more the sports gear and the Tommy Hilfiger and the polo, and now it's more like they rapping about Donna Karan and stuff like that. So now we're at the era where it's like, we not high fashion, but we figuring out certain brands that we like. And so, but now you start to have hip hop taking ownership. I think April Walker was a pioneer. I remember the first time you start seeing rappers wearing Walker wear. You know, was a big thing, because it's like, it's a black woman, that's her own shit, and she worked with the big companies. Now she got her own shit, and FUBU was a big thing. But before them, it was, you know, I can't forget Cross Colors and Karl Kanai, and this whole movement of black ownership opened up a new wave to whereas you start to get to, by the time what you're talking about, Rawkus era, you start to talk about the Meccas and the Nietzsche's and the PNBs and the academics,
Echo.
maybe Echo. I did Echo ads that was in Times Square and all that. Shout out to Mark Echo. There was a store across the street from Rawkus, because Rawkus was in the same building. Next door, 676 was Rawkus, 678 was Platinum Island. And if you look at the history of Platinum Island, a lot of hits came out of that. Ken Duro Eiffel was the main engineer of Platinum Island. And at Rook, in the same building as Platinum Island was Cutting Room, and Just Blaze was the intern at Cutting Room.
It's crazy.
So you had Just Blaze, aka Justin, in this room. You had Ken Duro Eiffel and them over here, and then you had just some incredible records coming out there. They had a store called Transit across the street, and Transit was, I think, for me, I could be wrong because it could have been commercialized by that, but that's when I really started understanding, like, the beginning of what people call, I guess, streetwear now. To whereas it's like, we taking the sneakers seriously now. You know, it's not just something that people in hip hop wear, but it's a whole different sneaker culture, lifestyle thing going on. There's people going to Transit that may not even know anything about these hip hop records, but they into the sneaker culture.
Facts. I definitely got some sneakers from Transit back in the day, so I get it. Right? So, what's the most legendary cypher you ever been a part of?
Cypher. The most legendary ciphers, I have to say, would probably be Washington Square Park. You know, being a cipher with Supernatural and The Quantum Leap and Aguilar Don Bishop. You know what I'm saying?
Don Bishop.
Adolf the Assassin.
Adolf the Assassin.
That's how John Forte and them, that's how I started my career. But later, I don't know. Those are the ones I really, really, really remember. Those early ciphers. I would have to say those are the most legendary.
When did you feel you was ready for hip hop? Like, I'm ready to drop my first album. Like, I'm ready.
I felt like I was ready as a freshman in junior high school. I wasn't. But when I first started, you think you're ready. I was like, no, I'm ready. I knew I was ready after my first solo Lyricist Lounge performance at SOB's with High Tech. I had performed at the Lyricist Lounge with John Forte and my man Rubik's and other situations. Supernatural, who's my OG. But I didn't get my shit off, and I was always a part of somebody else's shit. I finally got a chance to perform my own set, and it's because of them High Tech beats, because I was going back and forth to Cincinnati by this time. Me and High Tech had a 5 or 6 song demo tape that I played for Danny Castro and Anthony Marshall. And these is my guys. Like, I would hang out with them, but I always salute them because they would always be like, nah, B, Nah. And I played them this demo with High Tech, and I'm like, now you on to something. So they put me on, and it was me, this dude from Brooklyn named Problem, who was super dope. It was Rod Digger, and it was Young Z, and Rod Digger was pregnant with Sativa, and Q-Tip was the host. And so you know how we feel about Tropical Quest, and Q-Tip was at SOBs. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, I'm. This is it. This is the only how the mom spaghetti, all that. You know what I'm saying? It was that moment for me. Yeah. And I went up there and I did very, very well. And Q-Tip said, when I came on stage, Q-Tip was like, that was dope. And when Q-Tip said that was dope, I was like, I'm on. I could do this.
Fire. Yeah. See, SOBs is legendary, right? So, like, right now is no real community space for MCs, like, blossoming, new MCs to go, like, develop their sword. It's no wetlands anymore.
They can't be in the same room.
It's SOBs is still. I mean, but it's still other.
Rod Digger met Q-Tip that day, and they started working together. And Q-Tip was too busy introducing the Buster, and she joined the Flip Mode Squad. So there, it was a incubator. An
incubator, right?
Yeah.
So it's perfect. And for what you said, it is other artists that don't participate in that kind of style of music that might not have a voice because it's not it's nowhere for them to be heard, right? So you guys had the New Eurekan Poetry Cafe, you know what I mean? Y'all had the Lyricists Lounge, right? So what was it like having those platforms back then and being able to have the incubator compared to now?
Well, I feel like everybody has their thing. I work with this artist, Nico is from Brazil. He's younger than me. He's super dope. But he told me about how he got his start. And it sounded funny. It sounded wild funny to me. Because he was like, I was battling on chat rooms. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? He said, you type something, and then somebody types some shit back, and y'all, I'm like, yo, that shit sounds crazy. That sound crazy, right? Because you were from Harlem, you had to go outside.
I was outside. I was high school battles. I was all types of shit.
He's a Brazilian cat who's born in Rio de Janeiro, raised in Orlando. So imagine in the mid 2000s or early 2000s, you were a high school kid in Orlando. Where are you gonna go to get your hip hop fix? Online, on the little chat rooms and comments. This is where you find your community. He found his community. He developed from that. I found my community. I'm nothing without without Washington Square Park. I'm nothing without Supernatural and Adolph and John Forte and these people and Jean Grey and these people who I was around. I'm nothing without them because it's like they pushed me to be a better artist and a better human being even. Without that, I don't know what it would be. You know what I'm saying? Like none of what we do is completely on our own. I think the best art comes from a community, and that community is so important. And Lyricist Lounge, God bless them dudes, because even with them, like they was forcing it. These places wasn't open and available to us. They made it happen. They saw the things happening on the street, and they was like, we can do this indoors, and we can make it a thing. And yeah, that was all community stuff.
For sure.
Why did that show end?
The Lyricist Lounge TV show, I was never a fan of the TV show. I'm sorry, fellas, I was not. Watching it. Shout out to all worked very hard on it. All my guys, Baby Power, Master Fool, Wordsworth, Punchline, Yassine Bey, AL Skills, all of the dudes who was at the thing yesterday. Tracy Ellis Ross was on it. It was they ceded too much control to MTV. So the Lyricist Lounge, if the Lyricist Lounge on television was what we saw at the club, to me that would have been classic. Even if it didn't succeed, we have replay value. We be watching those episodes like that.
Over and over.
They tried to make it a comedy sketch show. So it was like hip hop as a comedy sketch show. So but that means you have to compromise a little bit. You got to bring in comedy writers, bring in comedy actors, and that take away from the purity of what Lyricist Lounge was. So what Lyricist Lounge was on TV, in my opinion, had nothing to do with what
the
we were
essence.
doing. Nothing to do with it.
Right. I know.
I'm glad everybody got a check. I'm glad everybody got TV exposure. I'm happy about that.
Right. I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm bouncing in and out of shit, but I'm
great,
getting
bro.
somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I love this.
Yeah, you're doing
Right?
great.
So ciphers, right? If a nigga want to cipher with you today, would you cipher?
Yeah, I'll be
still do
honest with
shit
you.
like that?
I'll be honest with you. I don't have extra rhymes like that, like I used to back in the day. Back in the day, I used to have a memory bank full of rhymes to pull out at any given moment. And back in the days, it was very important to me to be able to show up and participate in a cipher. I don't really care about that anymore. And if I do have a rhyme that I feel like is that dope that I want to kick in a cipher,
You put it on
I'm
a song.
putting it on a song. I'm gonna try to make some money for it. You know what I'm saying?
Because I'm glad you gave. Because if you would have said cipher, I was about to start going, test you real fast to see if you was about to cipher.
He trying to ask you for a verse.
I see
Nah,
that,
that's
I
my
see
brother.
that.
That's
I
easy.
see that,
He trying to ask you
That's
for a verse, bro.
that's
my brother.
That's
I
easy.
told
That's easy.
Flex,
That's
like,
easy.
So I one of my favorite moments of rhyming is I did Flex. You know, the Flex freestyle.
Right.
But I did my shit like 7 years before Black Thought did his. And my shit is dope. But I feel like niggas wasn't checking for the Flex freestyle like that at that time. When I seen the Black Thought shit, I went back and visited my shit. I'm like, my shit still hold up. My shit still hold up. So Flex had asked me to do the Flex freestyle. And he was like, yo, you see what Black Thought did? I was like, yeah. So you do it. I was like, look, Flex, if I got a rhyme, I gotta have a rhyme. I gotta come, at least in my opinion, as equal or try my best to come at what Black Thought did. I got to. And
Thought is an animal.
if I come with that, I gotta get paid off of that one. You know what I'm saying?
I respect it.
You know
Yeah.
that hierarchy of rap that I was talking about. Yasin, Thought, definitely in that list too. Kiss, Styles,
Right.
definitely in that
Now
list.
I do
too.
got verses, but I don't be remembering them like that no more. You know what I'm saying? I, like back in the days, say you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would probably just kick. I got a new album coming with Bun B. I got an album coming with Madlib. I got shit I've been working on with Terrence Martin. Monster verses. Just don't know any of them. my pen game is still like I don't memorize them until it's time to go on the road. I got to show a Blue Note in 3 days. I'm doing 3 new songs. After I do all these interviews, I gotta just spend in the crib just doing the whole Loaded Lux jogging workout.
workout,
You know what I'm saying? Like, trying to
memory
remember-
bank
yeah.
routine. Right. So speaking of Madlib, right? So you work with Madlib on the album. You work with Tech on the album. You work with Ye on songs. You work with Dilla on songs.
Yes.
Who's your favorite to work with?
My favorite producer that I probably work with, that I probably I think the tail of the tape that I sound best with is High Tech. The producer I probably most from is DJ Quick. You know,
Wow, that's
I got like 3-4 joints with DJ Quick. By the time we spent in the studio, I learned a lot. I love Dilla. I mean, Madlib is. High Tech is my foundation. I love the freedom I have with a Madlib beat. And that's not just different worker styles. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talked about this. You work with Tech. You know, Tech is a perfectionist. Tech likes to be and Tech likes to have a lot of input, which is what makes him High Tech, which makes him super dope. And so me and High Tech, when we would be in the studio, it was a lot of back and forth. Like, High Tech would not let me get away with shit, and I would not let him get away with shit. Madlib is a different process. Madlib is just like, hey man, whatever you want to do, man. You know what I'm saying? So just me as an MC, but I'll be honest with you, that's what the first Liberation, that's what it was. This Liberation, me and Madlib, we done went to Africa together. You know what I'm saying? We locked in for this new Liberation. So this new Liberation is really way more of a collaboration than the first one was.
Gangster. Yo, why didn't you guys ever do Reflection Eternal 2?
We did a part 2. We did part 2 on, pardon me, on Blacksmith and Warner Brothers, 2009, 2010. Some good records on it. It's a record with Bun B. We did a couple videos. A record with Bun B. A record with Estelle. We were shooting for the stars with that one, and I got it. At that point, I was fully in like my record exec mode. High Tech was pulling away from the music industry at that point. He was living in Cincinnati. He wasn't really putting out a lot of music at the time. And I was like, yo, we can do this. The fans want another one. And so the song with Estelle, like the video, we spent a lot of money on it. And I went and did all the kissing the babies and shaking hands with the DJs. And I did the whole tap dance record industry shit. And it didn't go as planned because Warner Brothers didn't give a fuck about that album. And they didn't really care. And that really soured my experience with the majors. That was my last album on the major. I asked to be released from Warner Brothers. I haven't thought about this in years. A month after that album was released. A month in, I was like, get me off of this label. I could do this by myself.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you already had the independent mindset already.
Parents are educators.
Tapped in by knowing, look, they mistreated this, and I'm kind of learning the business better. I don't really need you guys anymore. I could take this show
I learned
on
the
road.
hard way. I bumped my head a few times.
Same here.
Like even when I think about somebody like LP, came in the game independent as fuck. He did the Rawkus thing. Rawkus blew up. He wasn't with that. Company Flow didn't blow up like Blackstar did. Or even myself or Yassine. So he tried something different. He started Def Jux. And Def Jux had all these acts that was super dope. Murs and Mr. Liff, and this was a whole super Def Jux thing, and that became like a little cult situation. And then he retreated from that and came back, and now it's me and Killer Mike, and it's Run the Jewels. And Run the Jewels took over the game for a second.
Facts.
Straight independent.
Facts.
These are my guys. I'm like, Killer Mike and LP are my age. I've been doing it as long as I've been doing it, and they out here, the way they moving, the way they shifting the cultures, like they brand new artists, like they rookie artists, and they doing all the young boy festivals, and they getting up there and stunting on the young boys. Like, look at how the OGs do it in terms of their performance. So they booking the young boy festivals and getting up there with the OG knowledge on that stage and blowing niggas away.
That's a fact.
And I'm like, wow, I'm like, LP had the blueprint, and I remember thinking like, while I was on Geffen and on Warner and in Hollywood, doing the red carpets and hanging out with Jimmy Iovine and DJing parties with Paris Hilton and all this shit I was doing as Talib Kweli, LP was carving an independent path. And I'm like, I don't trade it for the world because, like I said, I learned the hard way, but I learned that wasn't me from doing it. You know what I'm saying?
You had to go through it.
Yeah.
But how did your parents feel about you becoming a hip hop artist?
Talking to Mike show.
How did your parents feel about you becoming a hip hop artist, being that you going to NYU? So you go to this big prestigious college, and then it's like, now I'm
You
focusing on hip hop.
You just reminded me about what we was talking about when I got distracted. I told my parents that I was dropping out of school after I got that job, but I took them out to an Italian restaurant, and I was like, "Listen, I gotta tell y'all something. I haven't been going to school for the last 6 months. I know you've been paying for school, and I'm sorry about that. But I got a job. I work at a black bookstore, and I got an apartment. I had an apartment by that point. I got a job and an apartment. Got a job and apartment, and so they were upset. They told me we're upset, but what we gonna do? You're 18 years old. You got a job. You got an apartment. You're not asking us for shit. We think you're making a mistake, but it's your mistake to make. You know, and that lasted for 5-6 months. I was back home. Back home.
I thought that was gonna go somewhere
Yeah, I
else.
was back home within 5-6 months, and my mother was like, "If you live in here, you gotta go to college and have a job. You can't just be living here." And so I enrolled at Medgar Evers, where she was at, because it was easy to get in there. I left NYU, dropped out of NYU. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Medgar Evers, and I lasted at Medgar Evers for another month and a half.
Just went to make her happy.
Just to make my mom's happy.
So good.
And then I enrolled in night school at NYU. I started taking like night school, like 2 courses just to say I'm in school. And I couldn't even do that. I was just like, I remember coming to her like, I can't do it, Ma. I can't go to school. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna contribute to the bills. I did that for a couple years.
Gangster. Right. So speaking of coming back home, now you've been touring forever, right? Early tour days, you put Kanye on his first tour, right? Now, before I even get into that, we all watched the documentary and we seen the early days about that. Take me back into those moments. Like, how did the relationship even develop between you guys at that time for you to take him on your first tour?
Watching the documentary was crazy for me. Shout out to Cootie and Chike. They did such a great job with the documentary.
Great job.
A lot of people don't remember that documentary, even myself don't remember, reminded me of is that there's a world before Kanye and a world after Kanye. You know, in the world before Kanye, one of the main reasons why people took Kanye as seriously as they did, because if you remember, they wasn't taking him seriously at first, but one of the reasons, in addition to his immense talent and his superior beat making skills and music making skills, in addition to that, was cosigns from people like myself and Yasin Bey and Dead Prez and certain Common and certain voices in the culture. And so I come from a code where vouch means something. And I vouch for Kanye a lot. And even when Kanye was doing things that people didn't understand, whether it was the Taylor Swift thing or just certain decisions he was making through his career, I always vouch for Kanye publicly and privately. Like, that's my man, and that's a genius. And that's one of our revolutionaries. And that man has helped me feed my family. And that man has helped me elevate the art. And that man is like, yo, protect Kanye West at all costs. That's how I was on it. So because I vouched for him so much, when he started saying and doing things that I felt like was dangerous to our community as a whole, I felt like because I was one of the voices that vouched for him, and because my public persona is I speak about so many different things, it would be fake of me to not speak up on some of the things that Kanye was doing. And so I found myself just speaking about it from a place of love and my estimation. I don't fuck with the Trump shit. I don't fuck with the MAGA hat. I would say things like this. And he got upset at these things. And so he lashed out at me on Drink Champs, on Nori's show. And when he did that, one of the things that was a little frustrating to me is like, I felt like with my contribution to the culture, there should have been more backlash towards him for lashing out. Not just against me personally, but for him saying things like, I admittedly was posing as a backpacker to get the cosigns for these people, to fool y'all into thinking that I'm this type of artist. Really, I like street music. Really, I like the gangster shit. There's nothing wrong with that. Not wrong with really liking gangster shit more than quote unquote positive music. But there is something wrong with being a poser. And there is something wrong with gaslighting and misleading people and I fooled y'all. I thought that and I took it personal because of course I had a dog in this fight. My name is in all these conversations. And so when I saw the documentary, I was like, oh wow. Even I forgot what that felt like. People wasn't there to see what it used to be like. And so that documentary, I think, kind of humbled me with the whole situation. It made me realize, like, wow, there was a time when we just really didn't know, but I knew. You know, Kanye West was speaking truth to power. He was manifesting his destiny, and it was things that I watched that man do supreme alchemy. He would say something and it would come true. And that's part of the reason why what Kanye is becoming, what he's doing is so dangerous, because he's a supreme alchemist, because he has that power to say something and make it be true. So when he says, I love Hitler, a lot of people be like, hey, you know what, I kind of love Hitler too, but I didn't want to say it. Yeah. And now he's making it become true. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he got to be careful with that power, because with great power comes great responsibility. He's like Scarlet Witch right now. You know how she was good, and in the Doctor Strange new shit, she using her power for evil. But you know she's gonna be good again 2 movies from now. I want to see the 2 movies from now Kanye. That's why let's get back to that shit.
Yeah, hopefully the brother here.
I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you answered it. It was perfect. I'm still going. Right. So, Get By. Right. Was it difficult clearing Nina Simone for that record?
I don't think it was difficult. I don't know if Nina Simone particularly owned that particular sample or what the clearance situation was, but we did have to clear it, and God bless Nina Simone. I got to meet her before she passed away. And I met her at a Miss Hill concert. I'll never forget. It's one of my greatest memories. I was touring, I was opening for Miss Hill in Paris, and Nina Simone was sitting on the side of the stage watching the show. I'm like, and Nina Simone, I know a lot about her. Like, I'm a fan of her music without hip hop.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Miss Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
It's crazy. For the people, Miss Lauryn Hill.
Miss Lauryn Hill, that's right. And she was sitting there watching the show, and I'm like, yo, I gotta say something to Nina Simone. And I went up to her, and I was like, excuse me, Miss Simone. And she was like, she goes, Miss Hill's performing. She's performing. That's how she did me. That's my one interaction with Nina Simone.
Respected it, though.
Oh, I got to. Like, she told me to pay attention to
what was happening.
But you gotta you had one of those moments.
Yeah, and I went to see her at Carnegie Hall, and but yeah, I talked about her on a couple of records before. I talked about her on The Blast. So I feel like she's my musical godmother. She's the heart and soul behind my biggest record. And on the keys back in the day, I don't know who's playing the keys on that particular record on Cinnamon, but Weldon Irvine was her keyboard player. And Nina was ill on the keys too, so that might have been her on the keys on that record. But her keyboard player, Weldon, he's the guy who Tropical Quest sampled for Award Tour, and he's playing keys on Umi Says, and he's playing keys on Astronomy, the Blackstar album. He came in the Incuba Books back then, and he introduced himself as an MC, his old man. He was like, "My name is Master Well, and I'm a MC poet." He would come to our events, and it took a couple of events to realize you Weldon Irvine, who wrote Young, Gifted, and Black. You know, in Higher Learning, when Tyra's running, they playing Aretha Franklin song. That's originally a Nina Simone song that man wrote. And he came, and he was around us in those early days, and he passed away right as the Blackstar album came out. But that was what he did right before he passed away, was come to fuck with us.
That's sick. Right now, you could keep that door open, Gage. Keep that shit open. Get some air in this motherfucker, because I know it's cloudy as shit, right? So,
Hey, so, if y'all gonna be loud, y'all might as well come in.
Nah, they kind of calmed down. That's why I said we could open it up. I ain't hear them niggas for like 20 minutes. I said it's either them niggas is eating or they watching the game. I respect the OGs, right?
Nigga wasn't whispering.
I learned a few things about y'all in here today. So you the Undertaker, from my understanding.
Oh yeah, hit the gong.
No, not in
Oh nah, sports betting. We gonna get to that. Hold on. Wait, hold on. Yeah, sit down. We gonna get to that.
I told these niggas they got
Let me smoke something too.
I told these niggas they got a text. They can't talk no more.
Yeah.
They got text.
I said, hold on. This nigga wake up.
We love it. It's all love, baby.
Right?
It's all love.
So yo, Quap, right? So speaking of Get By, right? So Timbaland remixed Get By, and he made a record called The Old Timbaland. Did you ever hear it?
No. When was this?
Let me play it for you.
Shout out to Timbaland. He's such an icon, bro. Man, I'm mad I didn't know that.
It's all good. About to know it.
I should have known that though.
We gonna make it.
Make it happen. Make it happen,
Going
Captain.
up on a joint now, cause I thought you heard it.
When did this come out?
Not too long. Not too long ago. Hold on.
Yeah, it's flew under my radar.
Life is beautiful, baby.
Life is beautiful. Life is a struggle. Life is a beautiful struggle.
I don't understand.
Life is amazing and full of miracles.
Full of miracles. We going. Hold on.
The miracles, baby. The Midnight Miracle. Man, let's talk
Midnight
about
Miracle,
it.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, I got a new episode of the Midnight Miracle.
See what I'm
Just
saying?
now on my phone, just now.
Let's talk about
You should
it.
listen
You
to
know
it
what
on
I'm
the way
saying?
back.
I want to grab a chair.
A chair? I got you, sir. Player.
Yo, what's the?
No
Get you.
Survivor Series.
These is all the chairs that I sat in at the events that I get to take home. So
The
that's
wrestling event.
from all the wrestling events.
All $5,000 to $10,000 chairs, baby.
I'm trying to find a room. Y'all got this?
Tight.
Yeah, no, tight is.
It's
Pitch
all
and
good.
Finale in here.
It's all good.
All right, I got it.
Damn, this nigga Steve has so many shit. I can't even find this motherfucker. What happened? It's right there, man. Get yourself situated.
We all good.
I'm sitting here trying to find the song. I done.
Let it run. You already know.
Maybe I should put the chair back. Actually,
When I find the song, I'm gonna play it.
Yeah,
But there's, it gotta be under a different name or some shit.
TK needs some weed, though.
Yeah, here.
He ain't rolling.
Yeah, somebody else gonna have to roll this.
Yeah, give it to
I
somebody.
can't roll and answer questions at the same time.
That's how I said.
I roll very good joints.
You roll only alone.
I do. I take my time and
Yo,
sit there and take my time.
hold on. What made you open the song Respirations with Style Wars?
Hold on.
Rest in peace, K Slay too.
Yeah,
Oh,
rest in peace to
on.
K Slay. Word is bond.
We not rolling?
We rolling. Oh, I just have to change the battery right quick.
Oh, no problem.
the hook to Respiration is so much in my mind that I can't recline. Blasting holes in the night to express sunshine. Breathe in, inhale vapors from bright stars to shine. Breathe out, we smoke, retrace the skyline. Heard the bass ride out like an ancient mating call. I can't take it, y'all. I can feel the city breathing. So it was all about the city as an organism, and the city breathing, and the city coming alive, and the different things that make the city happen. And the train system is like the veins, the blood through the city. And you know, for the vein, you know what I'm saying? For the vein to have on it the graffiti, all you see is crime in the city. You know, it's like to have the graffiti artists. The whole Blackstar album was about paying tribute to those who came before us, whether it be the graffiti artists, African rhythms, the drums. We were talking about B-boys or B-boys. We were talking about Rocksteady Crew and all that. Right. We sampled KRS-One and the definition. Like the whole album and that whole scene at that time, that whole Washington Square Park scene that we came out of was about there's something before us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to talk about, you know, the artists, the people that we love, the Slick Ricks and the Busy Bees and the Dougie Freshes and the KRS-One and the Rakim. Like, we talking about them. Yeah, that's what, if you listen to the album, all those references is that.
Now, you had Dave Chappelle on your first album.
Talk to him. I was waiting for
You
this.
was already, you was early to the
He
party.
was tapped in.
Yeah.
He was tapped in.
How did you meet Dave?
That's a good funny
I
story.
was waiting on this.
I met Dave Chappelle in the hallway. Where's Juju at? Yeah, Juju. I met Dave Chappelle in the hallway of a girl that I was dating. Because my man Juju was dating her roommate. He was dating this girl and her roommate. I was dating her roommate, and she used to date Dave Chappelle. But they still had a kind of friendship. They grew up together or went to high school together. Yeah, I'm not giving no names.
Nigga was glowing. He couldn't wait to see that.
You still hating that.
He threw the alley-oop. He threw the alley.
And I gotta say, this girl, man, she's a friend of mine to this day. She's a gangster, because I was working at the bookstore. I was a young, skinny teenager. I never forget. She told me she broke up with me, and she's like, "I'm going back to my old boyfriend, who was Dave Chappelle." And I'm like, "Yo, first of all,
That's fucking
you know what I'm saying?
crazy.
She told me she went back to this nigga.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, "Yo," I'm like, the nigga from the piano, Reggie, from the. That's all I knew. But then Half Baked came out. And I'm like, yo, that was my life. Because when I was at NYU, I was living in a dorm. So Drim Brewer, Dave Chappelle and all them, and like how they was living in the dorm, going to the bodegas, hey, black ass, and that whole weed smoking, I don't buy it from the niggas in the park. You know, I don't smoke that shit no more. All that shit from Half Baked. The weed delivery system. We gonna try to sell weed, but we suck at it. That was my life.
That's crazy.
And so the next time I seen Dave Chappelle, his father had property in Ohio, Yellow Springs, Ohio, and De La Soul had a show at a college in Ohio. I was in Cincinnati, fucking with high tech, and Corey Smith was my manager. He was De La's manager. I'm like, I'm gonna go check out the De La Soul show, and Dave Chappelle was there. And I'm like, yo, I met you. He's like, where? I'm like, I met you in Whoop-de-Woo's hallway. He's like, oh, okay, I remember you. And then that was our second time meeting. But then Electric Lady days, Soulquarian days, you got Questlove and James Poyser and Pino Palladino and D'Angelo in the basement of Electric Lady working on Voodoo. You got Common on the second floor with Jay Dilla working on Like Water for Chocolate. You got me and High Tech on the top floor working on Reflection Eternal. And so this is what's happening in the building. And I come outside to go to Fat Beats to buy some vinyl, and I see Dave Chappelle.
Wow.
It's my third time meeting this man. And I'm like, yo, Dave Chappelle. But by this time now, I've seen Half Baked and I've seen Killing Him Softly by this time. So now I'm like, oh, you that dude. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if people remember, like before the Chappelle show, when it was just Half Baked and Killing Me Softly, it was like if you knew, you knew.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I invited him to the studio, and he came to the studio. And that's how he's on that album. He just came, and he came the next day, and the next day, and we was friends from there.
That's crazy.
He gave us the illest breakdown.
That's crazy,
bro.
And you was on a lot of Chappelle shows too.
Yeah, I was a musical guest on Chappelle Show 3 times, which is the most of the musical guests on it.
Which is fucking ill.
I'm happy
and then
to be a
seeing
part of
y'all
that
on
legacy.
Saturday Night Live together at the end,
man.
I'm like, oh, look at my guys.
Yeah, Saturday
No, I
Night
mean,
Live.
it's
I mean,
hard.
that's one of my favorite shows of all time. That was a lifelong dream. I grew up watching that show with my father and my brother, so I brought them with me.
That's
You know
so
what I'm
tight.
saying? But what I want to say on your show in particular about SNL is, what I know about SNL is that's big time. Like, if you on SNL, you got a platinum single out. You on the charts. You in the clubs, you in the radio, all of that. Your videos are spinning, all that. Blackstar did SNL 24 years after we dropped our debut album. We have no songs on any of the DSPs. You can't find a new Blackstar album. It's only on Luminary. Go to Luminary, hear luminary.com if you want to hear the new Blackstar album. And that's where the new Madlib album will be as well.
Go support my family.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Word.
People's Party is there. Midnight Miracle's there. Luminary is where it's at. I'm very excited about the Luminary situation. But we did Saturday Night Live as an underground hip hop act, talking about white supremacy and crackers and all this type of shit, with no single on the radio, straight independent. And I don't think that's ever happened in the history of that show. I think that's the thing I'm most proud of with that situation.
Gotta let the air horns off for that. I've been easy on my sound effects.
Yeah.
Let me give you a light Saturday Night Live story that is kind of funny too, and it coincides with the legend of Saturday Night Live, right? So shout out to Chris Red, shout out to Sam J.
Yes, shout out to Chris. Sam J, I'm interviewing at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, get the fuck out of here!
Tomorrow,
That's
yeah.
my sis. No,
Sam
I got
J.
Sam
Yo, her
supposed to be
show?
coming up here
Word?
too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
show.
family.
We're looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing
and I
it.
think I got something with her at SoHo House. February 9th, Soho House. Will put the details out whenever she gives them to me.
Pause.
Right, so pause.
She made it cool to say pause.
Yeah, she made it cool
We
to
had
say
take a
pause.
break from it, and now you can say it.
She made it cool, right? So, shout out to Pete Davidson.
Shout out to
That's
Pete.
my guy.
That's a good dude.
Good dude, right? So when Pete was on SNL, nah, it's not. I'm not even being funny, right? When Pete was on SNL, I used to go holler at him. Like he had the same room that Belushi had, right? So he was fucking miserable at this time being there. It was just like
This is when they kept talking about he's gonna leave.
Right.
He's not showing up to the
and
show.
he would be telling me, like,
He used to get away with
this,
it.
I promise you, it's
Not
my last
showing
one.
up.
I'm getting the fuck. And he did it for maybe a year later. After he kept telling me it was his last one, he had like a wall that like he had like marks and striped every fucking show because he was counting down to the ending of it. And I got to be in the room that Belushi was in. That was his dressing room, and I smoked out Saturday Night Live.
That's right.
While he studied his fucking shit. So
job.
I thought that was the coolest shit ever.
Good job.
Rest some air horns off. That was cool. You know what I mean? What am I doing in the NBC building with Reefer?
Yeah, I smoked.
It was
I
great.
smoked
It
up
worked
there,
out.
but I couldn't do it in my room. I had to sneak into Dave's room.
See, they give the seniority to certain
yeah,
people.
yeah,
You feel
yeah,
me?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was hard. That was hard for me. Yo, what was it like being on tour with Dave?
It's dope. I mean, I've toured with Dave a number of times. We just got off tour. It was Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Rick Cunningham, Donnell Rollins, Blackstar. It was a lot of fun. You know, when Dave got attacked by that attacker, he was introducing Blackstar. We was in the middle of a run right there. That shit was crazy.
That's
but
a
yeah,
fucking
you know,
movie.
Block Party, when we did Block Party, we did like a Block Party tour. I've learned a lot from working with comedians. Dave attracts the best of the best comedians. So it's not just Dave, but it's a bunch of great comedians, from Michelle Wolf to Mo Amer to Donnell Rollins to a lot of great people. Sam J is be with us sometimes, which is funny because people think that Dave is anti-gay, and even Flame Monroe, who's a trans comedian, I've seen her open for Dave before. But
He did a story about that.
yeah, shout out to Flame Monroe. Not to say I don't want to be caught up in the trap of proximity just because I happen to know who Flame Monroe is. Doesn't automatically make me, you know what I'm saying, an ally to the trans community.
Gotta say that though.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm intersectional.
I'm with you. Yo, we ain't get into Questlove though, bro.
Go ahead, get into it.
How did y'all meet?
Questlove, I met. Shout out to my man Ocean from Natural Resources. If you listen to the Roots, Do You Want More? There's a record called I Say What Man, where they play all the instruments, and Scott Storch, y'all, he's on the keys, y'all. Leonard Hubbard, y'all, he's on the bass, right? And Black Thought goes, shout out to my man Ocean from New York. And that was like the first time I heard a shout out somebody I knew on record. Like, that's my man. I know him.
Yeah, that's L-word.
I know him. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He's the guy he's talking about.
That used to be like that back in the day.
I know him. That's my man.
When it meant to be something, when you was in a video, it meant something.
That's my man in the video right there.
That's when it meant something to be in the video, you know what I'm saying?
And I used to go to those early Roots, Irving Plaza, Wetland shows. And I was the young dude. I was around. But they didn't really pay attention to me. There were other things going on. They were trying to get the attention like De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest at that time. And I was new and young and fresh. And
they were Square Roots.
The Square Roots was back in the organic stage, yeah. But they did. I'm on a Roots song. There's a Roots song called Double Trouble with Black Thought and Yasin Bey. Is that on Philadelphia Half-Life? I believe it's on Philadelphia Half-Life. Now, for that session was a Blackstar session. It was Wendy Goldstein from MCA was like, yo, the Roots want you on the new album. I'm like, the Roots want me on the new album? She said, yeah, totally. The Roots totally want you on the new album. And so I went and did the song. And the album comes out. And not only am I not on the song, and no, they weren't in the session. They just, not only am I not on the song, but it's just Black Thought and Yasin on the song. Right. And it's called Double Trouble. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo,
that's some bullshit.
I read the credits because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm reading the credits, and Questlove, I hadn't met him yet. I met him, he shook his hand maybe, but didn't know him. And he wrote in the credits, thank you to Talib Kweli for coming and being in the session and thank you. I was like, oh, that's dope. He acknowledged that I was there. You know what I'm saying?
That's fire. And
then they came with the next album. Was it Phrenology or one of the... It's the next album. And then, but now, by this time, I had toured with the Roots in 2000 and did the OK Player tour. And that's what it was. I met Quest doing the OK Player tour. And now I'm in the studio with Black Thought. And I'm on 2 songs in the Phrenology album. So I went from being kicked off of 1 song to now being on 2 songs, which tells me that I got better. You know what I'm saying? And Black Thought, I remember he sat me down. We and him born the same day. And he was like, yo, you the only one still MCing. He was like, everybody else trying to do all this other stuff and be Hollywood and this and that, and you the only one who still focused on the bars, and that's why I want you on 2 songs on this album. So everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to be on Double Trouble, which is an amazing song with the way that them 2 sound together.
That's gangster. Yeah. That's gangster. So, it's been an honor having you up here so I could just spitball these questions to you.
Yes.
Right? Because it's been a long time coming.
Yes.
Right? Now I want to pivot off all this history real fast, and I want to ask a question. When was the first time you ever felt dangerous?
It's a good question. First time I ever felt really dangerous was 2004, and I'm working on the album, and I'm listening to Stokely Carmichael speeches. And in 2004, I remember it was Kanye versus 50, who's gonna sell the most records. And I'm working on a new album, and I'm listening to Stokely Carmichael, and he's talking about crack of this and crack of that, and we gotta have our own, and he's really pro-black. And Stokely Carmichael back then was arguing with Dr. King, because Dr. King was like, with much due respect to Dr. King, because he's absolutely revolutionary, and I don't want to take away his legacy. But he didn't really understand the rhetoric of saying I'm pro-black, because he was trying to be more inclusive. Right. And Stokely and them was like, nah, fuck that, we pro-black. And I booked a ticket listening to the Stokely Carmichael speaker. JetBlue was new and fresh, trying to go to Miami. And I get to the airport, and I try to put my credit card in the machine. It's not working. I go to the counter, and she's like, I can't help you. I'm like, what you talking about? And then these dudes show up. They got black suits, and they talking about, we from the FBI. And they're like, you got to come with us. And they pull me in a back room, and they start asking me, what was that speech you was listening to in the studio, in the cutting room? And I'm like, how y'all know what I'm listening to? It was like, we know what you be doing. It was like, what was that? What were you listening to? And I'm like, I'm listening to Stokely Carmichael. And they're like, okay. And then they showed me a list paper, like with like in the movies with the fucking redacted shit. It's a redacted list of names. And it was 2 names with the numbers and the addresses. It was my wife at the time, DJ AQ, and my manager at the time, Corey Smith. It was the only names that wasn't blacked out, which means there was a full list of names. But they just asked me about these 2 people, and they was like, who are these people to you? And I'm like, that's my manager, and that's my wife. And they were like, okay, because, you know, I'm like, why are you asking about those 2 people? They were like, those are the people that you travel with the most and you stay in contact with the most. All right?
These are the feds or
Yeah.
hip hop police?
These are feds at JFK Airport. And they questioned me a little bit, and then they said to me, they said, look, we know that you are a rap artist, and we figured you were probably like just doing something creative. They told me what they thought it was. They were like they were trying to let me know, we don't really see you as a threat. We're just doing our due diligence. But that was ominous and threatening in itself. The fact that they even had the power to do that. And they held the plane for me. Sorry to bother you. You didn't mean to inconvenience you. They held the plane and made sure I got on my flight. But what I learned was, you know, and I've been in the clubs. I mentioned Jessica Rosenbaum. You know, we used to work for Jessica. I understand how the hip hop police move. I used to know them by name. I used to see them in the clubs. Oh, there goes such and such. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand what it is. When people talk about hip hop police following Busta around, following 50 and them around, this is real shit. They targeted Alchemist and Prodigy.
I got locked up by hip hop police.
Yeah, they targeted all of us. All of us was going to those clubs. We was all targeted. We was all targeted. But it wasn't lost on me that I'm not out here with no gangster lyrics. I'm not talking about shooting nobody. I'm not talking about selling nothing. I'm not talking about doing nothing illegal. But they still found the rhetoric of someone from 40, 50 years ago that I just was listening to dangerous enough to at least question me about it.
That's fucking nuts.
You know what I'm saying?
And that is a fucking amazing answer to a very abstract question. This is the first time I asked it on this platform, and it's something that a friend asked me. Shout out to my brother Steve. And I said, I'm gonna remix that question in my spiel, because it's such a compacted question, right? Because you don't necessarily have to be active in the street or be a certain type of individual to feel or be dangerous, right?
I mean, look, I just got escorted off American Airlines flight 2 weeks ago because the flight attendant said that he told the pilot that he felt unsafe. You know, I documented. I filmed.
I think I seen it on your Instagram.
I posted it on my IG.
That was a
You be
question.
going crazy on the
That was a
gram.
question I had.
This nigga Kweli be going wild on the
Hey,
gram.
you know,
If you say something spicy, anything, if he could read it and he senses
If
the
I could read
spice,
it,
he's
if I see
coming
it,
for you.
I'm from that cloth. If I don't see it, God bless you.
Right.
But if I see it,
Oh, 9 times out of 10, he's gonna see it.
and you know what? But here's my rule. I want to be clear because there's a myth that I'm out here looking for smoke, which I'm not, unless the smoke isn't. And there's a myth that I'm out here trolling, and I don't condone trolling. You don't see me going on other people's pages.
Never.
You don't see me tagging people going on. I'm never looking for anything. And when I do that, because I do that a lot. But when I do it, it's never about, you'll never see me do that if someone says, I don't like your bars, I don't like your song. It's never nothing frivolous or subjective.
People know how to get the reaction out of you.
Yes.
I feel like at this point, they don't even take it serious themselves. They just want a response from you.
Yeah, well, there's a word for someone who's going to say some racist stuff to just get a response from a black person. And that word is called a racist.
Yeah.
So you're right that's, you know what I'm saying? That's what they're doing, but it's still them being racist. You know what I'm saying? They be like, yo, it's just trolling. So you telling me that someone is being racist just to troll a black person? That sounds pretty racist.
That's pretty racist.
And then they twist to, well, it's just my opinion. All racism is opinion, nigga. This is not facts. How you just, doesn't justify it. It's my opinion.
Right.
Nazis are just sharing their opinion too. It doesn't make it okay just because of the opinion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's your opinion, asshole.
Right.
you have,
Anyway.
Show it with some facts.
I ask this question a lot, and when I ask this question, people normally say, I don't have any, and I hate it. So please don't say that.
Speaking to the device, my brother.
Okay, brother.
I try my best.
What's your biggest regret in your career?
Well, I see why people say they don't have any, because to be forward thinking, and we're wordsmiths, so we don't like to fuck around with the words. We like the words carry a lot of weight. So I think the gut reaction is to be like, I don't have any regrets, because everything is supposed to happen the way it happens. Everything that's happened to me, even the negative things, even the mistakes, even the fuck ups, made me the man I am and led me to where I'm at. So let me
rephrase that. Mm-hmm. What are some things you would have done differently in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same question.
You know what I'm saying?
But I do have an answer.
Poor remix.
That's actually a great.
But I do have an answer. It goes back to what I was saying about the LP thing. Sometimes I think, what if I went independent way earlier? What if I went indie right after Get By? What if I went indie when I still was viable in these clubs, viable in the radio, and you know what I'm saying? Like, what if I went indie when I had that energy? Would I have been as big as such and such? Would I have been? But I can't. Once I start doing that, that's almost like self-doubt creeping in, and that's almost like comic book shit. There is an alternate reality somewhere where that guy exists,
but this is reality,
and he's probably a dick. That version of me is probably like, I don't know, on some bullshit. The one who was able to do that, the one who didn't get knocked down, and you know what I'm saying. So I don't know.
Are you still at peace with yourself when you get mad?
When I get mad about what?
Anything.
I try not to
taken out of your character.
I try not.
You still find yourself.
I try not to get taken out of character too often. I don't get mad. A lot of people. I could be deadpan, and I could have this resting face, and like where people have told me all through my life, my career, even on my Belly. You know the artist Belly?
Yeah.
He told me the first time he met me, he thought we had beef because of the way I was looking at him. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? And Tierra Wax said the same shit. Tierra Wax was in a magazine.
love her.
I mean, Tierra Wax so ill. She's so dope.
She is fucking
I'll be
amazing.
playing her music. You know what I'm saying?
I love her.
And we was on sound set together. I was trying to find her set so I could watch the show. And I read an interview with her. She's like, "Yeah, I saw Talib Kweli at sound set, but he looked like he was mad about something. I was what the fuck?" So I didn't speak to him. And I said it in an interview, and she was like, "Oh no, I didn't. We cool now." But people say that about me. I really don't be mad, at all. Like I've taken that out of the whole anger thing. It becomes more dangerous. You don't make good decisions when you're angry. You become more targeted. The anger, like the standout thing about my situation with American Airlines is, like, I was completely in the right, and I did not get angry, but I used to get angry. I feel like 25-year-old me would have ended up beat up by the police in that situation. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't. It didn't end up like that. So I try not to let too many things rattle me. But I am someone who is unflinching and uncompromising in certain ways and unapologetic in certain ways. So I stand my ground, but it's not from a place of anger. That's not where at least that's not where I try to bring it from. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's righteous anger. And even Maya Angelou, who's a hero of mine, she says, if you're not angry about what's going on in the world, something's wrong with you. So I understand the need for anger and how it can be a driving force. But for me, I've done the anger thing enough, I think.
Word.
Who's your favorite author?
Paulo Coelho, I think. He wrote The Alchemist. I think his books are... I'm not a religious person. He's like a Catholic priest, which I'm not into at all. But The Alchemist is a classic for a reason. And this the way he's able to his books feel like revelations to me without being on some religious shit.
So right, we winding down. Got a couple more questions for you before I let you.
And I'm enjoying this, brother. Thank you.
Man, if you enjoying it, just imagine how I feel being able to conduct the interview with one of my favorites.
Ain't pass you now.
Now puff.
They gotta roll it
And
up.
I don't
We
even
got
like
something
smoking
to
in
roll
public
up.
on the internet.
That's
But I
crazy.
gotta
But he
smoke
want
You
to
want
smoke the Kush dog.
you want to smoke a blunt or you smoking papers? What you want?
Whatever y'all hand me.
All right,
I know
cool.
that sound crazy.
Nah, you know what?
It's all weed in here though. Let them know that. It's all
Oh,
weed in
thank
here.
you, brother. It's funny with Sam J. I was going over with my dudes about how to ask certain questions about Sam J. So if you've seen the show, you know.
I fuck with Sam J. Yes, I seen the show. I fuck with her.
No, we didn't say we don't fuck with her. But I told you, when you want to say on your show, please phrase it in a better way.
Yeah. She be having wild shit on her show.
Yeah.
Like, she do. Yeah, she
Yeah.
be like, "Oh,
Sam is funny.
wife, yeah.
man.
Yeah, Sam is funny.
Like,
Yeah. We know.
Shout out to Sam J. Shout out to Sam J for challenging our biases and making us think about what we have to say.
Word.
You fuck with a lot of
like,
dope.
yo,
Calm down, another dude I fuck with.
That's family. That's family. Strong Arm Steady, the originals. Right, so hold
I'm
on,
gonna tell
right?
it on my podcast.
Don't tell that
Yo.
I'm not telling a story on Dizzy podcast. On my podcast,
watch when you
it's a
hear
safe
it,
space.
You like, when you hear it, you're gonna cringe.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Save it for this, what?
How did you get into podcasts? What made you want to get into podcasting?
So you know what? Me and Seth Burr, we did a podcast on TuneIn. Remember TuneIn that had an app that we did? How many episodes we did? Like 5 episodes.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6.
It was hard work. It was fun as shit. Nobody was listening. I think that's why we stopped. Nobody gave a fuck.
Yeah, it was doing shit.
We was just doing this shit to listen for just me and him listen.
Just to listen to each other
Yeah,
talk.
that shit felt crazy. We
Right.
did like 5 episodes. We had some good guests. It's like, nah, you know. But then Jared from Up Rocks said he said, I want to get in business with you. Because we did good business together at Rawkus. So we came up with this idea for this show.
Fire. So one of my favorite songs from you, 2000 Seasons,
Oh, that's a good one.
right? Evil D on the Scratches, right?
Yeah, he
What's
fucks with you,
what's your favorite song?
By me? I don't know. I do subscribe to the idea that all the songs are the babies are like your babies. You can't have a favorite one. There are some that,
You like some a little better than others.
Well, this is what I can't say. I can't say that I have a favorite song. I like some better than there are songs. I have so many songs that there are songs that I don't like. Definitely, there's songs that I don't like, but I don't know which one is my favorite. It depends on the time and the context.
Okay, I thought you was gonna have one for me. Like, yeah,
I
you know,
thought
that's
so
one.
too. I ain't gonna hold you.
Like, you know, my favorite songs is the ones that I'm working on now. You know, the new right, and that's probably gonna change. Like, I'm really excited about the new Liberation stuff. I'm real excited about that.
I can't wait to hear it. Right. So speaking of favorites, one of my favorite Complex covers, you, the Beastie Boys, and Kanye. Right. Now around this time, you and Kanye was on mad covers together. What was the
Yeah.
thing with them bunching y'all
It's
on
that
covers?
vouch.
What that?
It's that vouch. It's like Kanye came through being vouched for by people who had currency in the culture. He came he was like, and that was important to us. It was important. Kanye was important. Kanye
Speaking of covers, hey Ike, let me see that shit real fast. You got your marker? Let me see that shit.
Ike Love.
I got
out.
something.
So you
for I got my
collect
brother.
magazines and stuff like that?
I collect a lot of things.
You're a collector.
I'm a collector, right? This comes from the collection of my brother Ike Love, because he's a super fucking hip hop historian, collector, photographer. And we was speaking of this cover on the phone, and he was like, I bet you I got it. And then boom.
Yeah.
Where your mark at, Ike?
You know what? Hold on.
Rest in peace to
Look.
Youch, bro. I toured with the Beastie Boys. I was on tour with the Beastie Boys at this time. I was opening for the Beastie Boys in Europe. I'm opening Beastie at Madison Square Garden and Canada, all through Canada and all through Europe. And I was on tour with these guys, and that's why I was here. But this is show 30 Rock I was watching a lot at the time, and Youch was sick. And there's an episode of 30 Rock called Kidney Now where Alec Baldwin's pops, Alan Alda, needs a kidney. We're going to do a We Are the World style benefit. And he couldn't make it, so I filled in as like honorary Beastie Boy for that. That's one of my greatest memories because I love 30 Rock.
That's so tight.
Talking about kidneys. Shout out to my sister. She just got her kidney.
Happy birthday, too.
And happy birthday to my sister.
She just got her kidney?
Yeah, she just got her
Beautiful,
kidney.
brother.
And shout out to my little
I'm
brother
happy for
Randy.
that.
Just got his liver, his new liver. Just
Shout
got
out
a
to
liver
Randy.
transplant. Shout out to my little brother.
Kidney
Love it.
Now.
Yes.
Word. Word. But yeah, man, you know what I mean? I'm not getting that joint signed and all that real fast, you know what I mean? For the culture. Good complex cover.
Yeah, man.
Old school joint.
And you used to tag, I could tell.
I did not. That's one hip hop skill that I did not have. I was not a writer, but I wasn't a reciter.
He got, you know what I'm saying? That shit was a glide right there. I thought, you know what I'm saying?
No, that just comes from years of texting, and I don't know how to write.
Yo, before I let you go, who's your favorite rapper of all time?
That's too hard, but I will say that my style, but who I am, as a composite, I think of, like,
Rapping.
Who's the gumbo?
the gumbo. Yeah, the gumbo is
the gumbo part?
the gumbo is native tongues with a heavy dose of Q-tip.
I hear it.
KRS One.
Chris.
And first two or three Ice Cube albums. You put those in a pot. You mix a little of that Poor Righteous Teachers and X-Clan. You mix a little of that Lyricist Lounge vibe, and that's what I am, I think.
The great Talib Kweli.
Oh, if you're a writer from a certain age, when that with NWA, like I was late to NWA. Straight Outta Compton, I loved, and Express Yourself, I loved. But as far as understanding what they were bringing as a whole project, I was late to it because a lot of the gangsta LA lifestyle I didn't relate to. But America's Most Wanted, with the Bomb Squad production, I was like, that was it. The shit that Cube was saying, the way he was writing. Yeah, Cube's pen inspired a lot of MCs.
And he was fearless.
Still is.
That's a fact.
Still is. My brother is.
Hold on, we ain't got to shoot the 5.
I gotta shoot the 5. You gotta shoot the 5.
About to do this. Is
my fault.
Okay,
All right, so look, before we let you go, we got a segment that we do.
Okay.
I didn't know if he had it, but it's great that he does.
Okay, let's do it.
It's called Shoot the 5. So he gives 5 names, and you give the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear a name.
Okay.
Go for it. Shoot the 5.
All right. Lyricist Lounge.
The Incubator.
Yasin Bey.
My brother.
Rawkus.
My business partners.
Kanye West.
The Anti-Hero.
Last but not least, Talib Kweli.
The Little Lebowski Urban Achiever.
That was hard right there, yeah.
No doubt.
Shout out to my brother, the legend Talib.
Thank you, brother.
Kweli. Thank
Mama,
thank you for partying with me. You know what I mean? It's for partying with me. You know what I mean? From the personal party to the people party.
Right.
I appreciate you, my brother.
I appreciate you. And this is your episode of is coming out soon. So
I can't wait. Send me all the assets so I could promote. You know what I mean?
I watched it today.
Yeah.
I watched the string out today.
I can't wait.
You.
It's definite.
It's one of those?
Definitely one of my best
beautiful.
interviews I've ever done, if not the best interview I've ever done. For sure.
No, you in there.
You on the edit? Yeah.
Okay.
They be editing you out?
We kept the stuff in about 119. We took out the stuff about the other blocks.
Okay. All right. Cool. What's that stupid shit you say for me?
Hey, yo, man, it's curls for the girls, waves for the babes, naps for the hood rats. Show Broadway, we at the personal party with Talib Kweli, Brooklyn Zone, Smoke Dizza.
I feel like he'd be at the party when the DJ be doing his thing. He'd be on the mic at the party.
I be letting him come hype my shows up and shit, because he got a little thing with him. The nigga's aight.
Right.
You already know, King. You know how we do this, you know what I'm saying? But we got the God MC.
That's the real MC skill, though. That's where MC started.
Exactly.
MC started from that.
Facts.
You just add the rhyme shit, but it started
The
from
nigga
that.
used to rap too.
But I ain't get to your way y'all was. You know what I'm saying? But I'm here.
Wait, say that again. Say that last part again.
Said the nigga used to rap too.
Right, I can rhyme too.
Let him know. You see, I get some love in here. You know what I'm saying? I got a little 1-2 balls.
That's the ball for us, right?
You know what I'm saying? Talk to. Yo, man, I like that dude energy back there, man. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all niggas
That's
is
what I'm
crazy,
talking
man.
to,
Personal
party. We out of here.